So you want to post more online. You want to leverage social media as a marketing platform and the channels that are there to help you grow a personal brand, a business that you're running, anything like that. Does this sound familiar to you? Because this was me not long ago. I'd open Twitter and then I'd be thinking, okay, what should I say? And then I'll go over to Instagram and I'm thinking, all right, well, which trending audio should I use? Or I'd go to hit record on my camera and I'd be like, crap, I messed up again. All right, here's take 2020. And I was just constantly just feeling like I was in this uphill, slippery slope battle with trying to create good content. That was me like not long ago at all. And as a struggling freelancer with ambitions of building a personal brand as a creator, I knew that I needed to be putting more content out there. But every time that I found myself trying to create it, I was just stuck. I kept thinking thoughts like, how do people find time to do all of this and still run a business? Is this whole social media content thing really worth it for me? I see that other people are doing it and they seem to be doing well, so maybe it's something wrong with me. Maybe I'm not cut out for this. Or there has to be some sort of better way. There's probably some sort of magic solution that I'm just too stupid to know about. These were the kind of feelings and thoughts that I had. Now, can you relate to that? Have you ever felt that before? It's super common, so you're not alone, and I'll answer it right now. You are cut out for it. If you want to be producing more content, whether it's specific to a platform or a content format, which we're going to be talking about that today, you can do it. But I'm going to help you in today's entry kind of just avoid all of the stumbling blocks that I had that took me way too long to figure out the hard way. So hopefully we can help you out today. But what I was seeing is that all the top thinkers that I followed online, no matter the platform, they talked a lot about systems, routines, schedules, and so on. But going from 0 to 1 was the huge hurdle for me for a long time and continues to be for many others. Maybe you're there right now. You think, what do I talk about? What note-taking or idea-building software is best? Which scheduling software should I use? Which social media channel should I be on? And for me, I figured all of them, right? It's more exposure, which there's a sharp edge to that knife as well. Yes, you're on a lot of platforms, more opportunities for exposure, but it can really burn you, especially in the beginning as well. You also may think, how much time should I allow myself to work on this? For me, I'm like, I have other priorities too. I was in this space and still am to a degree where I was paying the bills by being an email marketing freelancer. So I was selling my time. I was trading my time for a paycheck, essentially, in a freelance capacity, but also starting to build up this creator business, this personal brand where I can sell products that I'm creating, where I can monetize content that I'm putting out there in the world. And so that's been the transitionary period that I still find myself in as of today. And so when that's the case, it's like, okay, well, I know where I want to go. I need to be creating content to help with that. But I also have these client responsibilities. I have these other things that I've committed to. And so it becomes this like fight for time of when are you supposed to spend time on creating content and how do you do that? How do you become efficient with that? And then also just asking like, all right, well, what's the end goal of posting? Say I have a great piece of content. Like what am I trying to accomplish because of this content? I'm not just posting it for vanity's sake. There needs to be something bigger. Is it audience growth? Is it more sales? Is it more clients? And then what 15-minute time window is best to post to maximize exposure? Getting caught up in the details like hashtags, SEO optimized captions, algorithm friendly things like what should I be doing? And my head just explodes over this. And that was my issue for a long time. And it's easy to slip back into that. And I figured since I was starting at 0, and by that I mean 0 followers, 0 customers, and nearly 0 experience in content creation itself, I figured that I should be optimizing for each of those points that I just mentioned to increase my chances of gaining some traction. When you're starting out, I'll just go ahead and break it to you. There's fundamentals that need to be focused on. There's a very basic system that I'm going to teach you, and I'm going to show you a 5-step process through that today in this episode. But so many people out there are getting caught up in, all right, what time is the best time of day to post on Instagram? All right, well, but then it's a different time during that same day to post a reworked version of that to LinkedIn. Okay, so I need to make sure that I optimize for that, like I said, that 15-minute window. We get so granular about that, and we're trying to play to the algorithm, trying to grab trending audios, trying to jump on post trends that are happening on these platforms, that fundamentals go out the window. Or you're just so focused on the minutia that you're not getting the meat and potatoes, as I like to say. You're not focusing on the core fundamentals of what's going to actually make a good piece of content, and then also be able to be created because you have a system in place that allows you to create that. These were all of the things, these were like the worst things that I could have done. And like I said, we just get caught up in the minutia without looking at the fundamentals. And the thing is, that was my answer that was just hiding right in front of me the whole time. Instead of trying to come up with a bunch of micro content for social media, because I can remember I had like my Apple Notes app at the time, and I'd have like 5 notes of just like little scripts to do some quick Instagram reels. I would go through it like that, but then like I said, I'd keep messing up, and I had to try to get it in one take because I didn't want to spend a bunch of time editing it in the background, or I didn't want to spend the money to hand it off to an editor, and so then it became this thing where what felt like it should only take me 30 minutes to an hour was sucking up a whole entire day, and I didn't even have great content to come from it. I was focused on the micro. I was focusing on micro content instead of something that is really the bread and butter of all the content I produce now and the backbone of the system that I'm going to share for you. And this is potentially revolutionary for some of you listening to this, but this is just like so proven, such a core of many creators that you probably follow and look up to yourself. This is what they're doing. And the answer to all of this is pillar content. Pillar content. That's what you need. And so we're going to look at ChatGPT and let them kind of explain what pillar content is. Rather than give you my own definition, we'll let the pros do it, huh? Okay, so I typed in very simply, and I have a screenshot of this on the email newsletter version and on the blog version of this entry, which you can go to evanshank.com to see this issue and also all the previous entries or articles or issues, whatever you want to call them. But I typed in, what is pillar content? And ChatGPT says, pillar content refers to the foundational, comprehensive pieces of content that serve as the main support or core of your content strategy. These are typically longer form, in-depth articles, guides, or videos that cover a broad topic or theme related to your niche or industry. The purpose of pillar content is to provide valuable and evergreen information to your audience. It acts as a comprehensive resource that addresses a specific topic in depth and serves as a reference point for your other related content. And the last little section of what it said that I shared in the newsletter is pillar content often consists of multiple sections or chapters allowing you to explore various subtopics within the broader theme. It provides detailed information, analysis, insights, and practical tips that showcase your expertise and provide value to your audience. So in a nutshell, my definition, pillar content is long-form content that covers a relevant niche-specific topic. And in most cases, it can have a pretty evergreen, it can be evergreen in nature, which means there's just a longer shelf life. And I'll kind of mention that a little bit later in today's episode. So for me, as what I was realizing is that's the thing I was missing was pillar content. And so I needed to really find one specific thing to focus on. If I could just focus on one pillar piece made specifically for one platform or a distribution method, I'd be able to do the following things. I'd be able to focus on one thing to avoid all this mental chaos that I was talking about earlier. I'd be able to make something that's pretty dense, pretty value-packed, because I'd be focused on that one thing rather than trying to make a bunch of micro pieces. I would also have this pillar piece that then could be chopped up for all that chaotic micro content for social media. It's just really the nuts and bolts of content repurposement at that point. I'd be able to promote my pillar product as a free offer on my offer ladder. And by offer ladder, I just mean the different things that you're offering, from things that are completely free, such as people following you online and seeing what you're putting out there. And then the next step up could be a newsletter, which is the pillar approach that I went with. And we'll talk about that in just a second. So your offer ladder is just the suite of things that you're offering to the world, some paid, some free. And then the other thing that it would allow me to do is finally have something that's evergreen and leverageable, because the whole game is leverage. As a one-person solo business owner, this is what it's all about. How can we leverage? How can we play the game of leverage in our business? And we've talked in previous entries about the different types of leverage and how you can apply that for yourself. So make sure you go to evanshank.com and look for that article. I can't remember which M&M article number it was, but yeah, you'll find it. It's pretty clear. But, I started this newsletter. All right. And I know I'm talking to you through a microphone and a camera right now. So you're either listening to this on a streaming platform as a podcast, or you're watching this on YouTube, or potentially even on Spotify now that they support video podcast, which is super awesome. But I started a newsletter and I never looked back. That was about a year ago as I'm recording this, right? We're just shy of a year of these weekly entries. And all of those frustrations and friction points mentioned above vanished in an instant. Whether you consider yourself a creator or not, all one-person businesses need to be utilizing pillar content to support their business and begin to build digital leverage, which is kind of, Justin Welsh is kind of the guy that I hear saying the words digital leverage a lot. That's what he refers to it as. And this is something that pillar content does for you. This is how you can build digital leverage into your business on the content side of things. And the thing is, it's not a trend. It's not a fad. Long-form content creation and then the distribution of that content that's been created has been around since the printing press. But today, in the digital age, there are a variety of formats that you can utilize. So there's literally no excuse for not taking action. And I just met this dude through Twitter this past week, and I screenshotted and threw up a tweet that I saw from him. His name is Will, aka Notion Dad. So at Notion Dad is how you can find him on Twitter. And I have a screenshot in the blog and email version of this, but I put it in there because it's really pertinent to what we're doing, and it's just another example. It's not just Evan trying to, preach to you about what he thinks you should do. Like, this is very proven, and a lot of people are doing it. And so Will would just put up a tweet saying, "This is what I've started doing. My newsletter is my pillar content." And then I create content based around that. So there's a lot of different ways you could, in the minutia, approach this, but overall the fundamental is the same. He created a newsletter as his pillar content, and that then gets broken up into a bunch of micro pieces for him to use on his other platforms. He says, "I schedule everything for Twitter usually and cross-post to LinkedIn with some different copy." So he says, one important thing is to make sure that you don't spread yourself too thin. And all the way through that process, that chaos that I was talking about at the beginning, where a lot of us find ourselves stuck at, you need to do what you can to keep from spreading yourself too thin. Because if it's chaotic for too chaotic for too long, you're going to give up on it. You're going to make excuses as to why it either doesn't work, the system's broken, or you're broken. And none of that is true. So we're focusing on the core here with pillar content. So Will, I appreciate your insight and what you're kind of putting out there on Twitter as well. So shout out to my dude at Notion Dad, a new friend of mine. And in that tweet, he had actually dropped in a screenshot from Justin Welsh, who's he's definitely not the first dude to do this, but he's built a huge audience, and he has a lot of marketing power going on using social media and content leverage strategies, such as the one we're talking about. So Will has the right idea, Justin has the right idea, and many others. So I want to help you go from where you are, which I'll call it 0 right now, if you're struggling just getting content or having a system that's sustainable for you, I'm going to help you go from 0 to 1. You focus on one pillar content format and dice it up for social media content if you want. That's just kind of the extra credit. But the pillar piece is going to last for a long time for you. All right, I'm repeating myself a lot. Let's just continue to move on through this. There are 4 pillar content formats that just dominate today, here in 2023 as I record this. You have the email newsletter, you have the blog, you have video, and you have podcasts. It really falls into those 4 pillar content formats. There are some different offshoots of those things, but if you were to try to distill it down into the simplified overarching categories, that's kind of where I see it being: newsletter, blog, video, and podcast. And so I'm going to help you pick your best pillar format and then give you a plan of attack to get you up and running. So let's jump in. There's 5 questions or 5 steps to this whole thing. So we're getting tactical, we're getting practical, and I'm going to help you go from 0 to 1 with your content marketing perspective, strategy, and by the end of this, you're going to know exactly what you're doing, on what routine, what rhythm, and you're going to know why, and you're going to know what to write about. So here we go. First question, step 1, ask yourself, what is easiest for you? Forget about what's coolest, the most sexy thing right now, and for God's sake, screw the algorithm for a moment. We need to stop trying to be so loyal to the algorithm. Just for this moment, please, or for this episode, let's just set all that aside. Here's the thing. The best content you could produce is the content that you're actually going to create and then publish. That's what you need. That's what you need to be doing. If it's content that you're not going to be able to produce because there's too many steps in the process, or there's a lot of friction points for you, or it just requires time that you don't have, whatever the hang up or the friction points may be, if it's too challenging for you and you're not going to be able to consistently keep up with the commitment of producing content in this format, then that's not the right approach for you. And to make it stupidly simple, here's your 3 options. You can write, you can record audio, or you can record audio and video. I know, pretty tough, huh? There's a lot of options out there for you. So the decisions, you just got to have to sort through that for yourself. But in most cases, it starts at writing, since most creators script out their videos or their podcast ahead of time either way. For instance, in the email newsletter, that, I'm using that, which is also the blog, as I've mentioned. I use that, and I'm throwing it up here on my Studio Desk teleprompter that I bought on Amazon probably 6 months ago or so. So now I have a teleprompter with the camera right behind it so that I can make high-quality looking video and reduce the friction. I have my notes right in front of me, and I can turn this into the first few episodes of the Eminem podcast was just strictly audio. So I didn't really have a camera set up or any of that. Now I have a camera set up, got the teleprompter, and I use the email newsletter as a loose script for this Eminem video podcast experience that you are being a part of, that you're a part of right now. The other thing to consider is what tech you have available to you. And honestly, there's really no excuse on this either, because you're going to get decent audio from your phone microphone, and you're going to get really good video from the phone camera as well. The smartphone has just really changed the game. In the first year of releasing content on your pillar platform, whatever it is, I want you to focus on quantity, the amount of uploads, the amount of times that you hit send on the newsletter or publish for the blog, or publish for YouTube, whatever it may be. Focus on quantity over quality. And within the conversation of the word quality, I want you to focus on the quality of your writing and the quality of the message, as opposed to the quality of the resolution of your camera or the lighting that you have in your office or wherever it is that you're recording it. Don't focus so much on the tech and visual side of it, because that will come with time, and we can take baby steps and make micro improvements as we continue to put out more and more pillar pieces. So the idea here is, what's the easiest for you? And so really there's 2 things that's going to help you determine What's going to be the path of least resistance when it comes to the pillar content format that you choose? Number one, what tech do you have available to you? If you have a nice camera and you have, a nice microphone and you enjoy recording in video or audio capacity, then leverage that. That's worth leveraging. And then what can you do the most of in a shorter period of time? Can you consistently make videos or record into your phone microphone for just an audio experience, a podcast? Or can you sit down? Do you have dedicated writing time each day? Can you write something that's got some value in it, that has this evergreen capacity and niche specific, which we'll get to in a moment? Those are the questions you ask yourself. And really, overall, what is easiest for you? Start there. You can build from there. And the whole repurposing, like I was talking about, or I started with a newsletter and then it turned into videos and podcasts and all that other stuff. I jumped into that a lot quicker than many people would because I had things available to me that a lot of people don't, as far as tech and also previous experience, skills that I've been able to stack through other career ventures that I've been a part of. So it was a natural progression and it happened kind of fast that way. But if you're going with newsletter, that doesn't mean that you have to be doing anything else. Really, all you need to do in email newsletter is to be able to sit down and write your ideas into some sort of piece, some sort of entry, some sort of email that works well for your intended goal and purpose and helps you build your audience or whatever your goal is. So that's the first step to building this digital leverage. Step number 2 is pick a format that you already consume. And this is a no-brainer, but I don't think that people think about this one too much. Like, if you don't listen to podcasts, don't start a podcast. If you're not opted into other people's newsletters, don't start a newsletter. Like, what kind of long-form content do you already enjoy as a reader, listener, or viewer? I suggest start doing that. The benefits of creating pillar content in a format that you enjoy already is, here's 5 benefits right here. Number 1, you're familiar with the landscape. You kind of understand how these apps or the platform works. You understand the game. You just do, because you've been a consumer of this. You've not been on the producer side. You've not been creating stuff and producing it, putting it out there, but you've been taking stuff in. You enjoy it for yourself in your leisure time. Number 2, you can model other creators, which is great for those that are getting started, which is the purpose of today, is helping you get started. The third benefit here is that you know what you like about the platform, so you can work that into your content. It makes sense. Number 4, it's easier to connect with other creators where you spend much of your time. And that's building connections, especially with other people that are creators in that space, is a fantastic idea that I wish I would have started doing sooner. I thought that, I think it was just my pride or ego, or maybe even just imposter syndrome of like not wanting to sound stupid to other professionals that actually knew what they were doing. But I just hesitated to connect with other creators, other freelancers, other marketers, within the industry and niche that I'm involved in. And I wish that I would have done that a lot sooner. I would have learned a lot of things faster. I would have built a bigger network. It just would have been a win-win. So the benefits of creating pillar content in a format that you already enjoy as a consumer is that it's going to be easier to connect with other creators. You know who's the top of the food chain. You know who is doing really well but still has a smaller audience. There's opportunities that you can find within that. And then the 5th benefit is that, honestly, it's just more fulfilling and enjoyable for you as a creator. Like, for me, I love YouTube. And I have since day one. I remember sitting, I was in a yearbook class in high school. I had some older friends that were in the class, and it was kind of like obviously we did work, but it was kind of like a hangout, and like everybody was friends there, and the teacher was chill. But I remember that was, so that would have been 2007-ish, right around there, because I graduated high school 2009. And so, yeah, sophomore, junior, senior, I was in the yearbook class, and I just remember eating lunch back there, and we had a bunch of computers because we had to build the yearbook, right? And I just would watch YouTube, and I just thought it was so cool, and I just loved YouTube. And I didn't know if it was going to stick around for a long time or not. So it's pretty crazy to see the progression of that company and the tool, the video platform that it's become. But it's still currently my favorite app on my phone and on my Roku TV. It's the thing that I am going to click on above all the other apps. And so, therefore, when I release a new YouTube video, I get a huge rush. There's just such a great feeling of accomplishment from my contribution to the YouTube community and the ecosystem that's there. And the cool thing is I can serve my needs by creating this pillar content and distributing it and hosting it on YouTube while supporting that platform that I love. And there's a ton of eyeballs on YouTube. Everybody knows what YouTube is, right? And so there's a way for me to garner new attention and kind of find people at the top of the marketing funnel, so to speak, that wouldn't have known about me or my brand or what I offer unless they stumbled across this YouTube video. So there's really nothing better than it. And the same thing goes with Spotify for me. I love Spotify. So I switched my podcast hosting platform just recently over to what they're calling Spotify for Podcasters, which I think they just bought Anchor, which was a pod hosting platform. And so I think Spotify just bought up Anchor and kind of just rebranding it, and they're just kind of working it into their business model, I suppose. But the features are great. It's free and it supports their company. It's a win-win, and I absolutely love it. So pick a platform, a distribution channel that you enjoy for yourself as a consumer. Step 3 in this 5-step system for today. Lock down 1 to 3 topics within your niche. And admittedly, this has been a really slow process for me. I feel like I've just been bouncing all over the place with the type of stuff that I'm writing about. I'm trying to write to things that I know about while also writing to things that people seem to care to hear about, and I'm learning new things all along the way. So it expands the amount of stuff that I want to talk about because it's fresh on my mind, and I want to document my process and be an example of, I don't know, a good path of solopreneurship, one-person digital business building. And I want a lot of transparency. That's my goal is, if I can't come out here and be like, hey, I've been building and selling businesses for 15 years, and here's all of the things I've learned. I've done millions or billions of dollars in sales and acquisitions or whatever the case may be. If I can't stand there as like a supreme authority, like the next best thing I can do, which honestly is even more valuable in some sense, is transparently document the ups and downs, the trials, the tribulations, the wins and the losses that I'm wrestling around with on a day-to-day basis within my small one-person solo creator business. So anyway, I'm jumping off topic a little bit here, but I've struggled to figure out what are those pillar topics for me. And so because I know how much I've struggled with it and it's been a hurdle for me, do this early so that you don't struggle like I did. This is why I know that you're going to flourish by getting ahead on this one. And so here's a simple process. This is the way that I think about it to nail down your pillar topics. What niche or industry are you in? What makes your approach different or unique in your business? Don't overthink it. And sometimes the thing that makes you different, like I was just saying, what makes me different is it's my personal experience. It's my story since I was a baby, and what were my hobbies? What are the other jobs I had before I jumped into the solopreneur world and working for myself as a self-employed person? And that might be that. In that sense, that can be enough to make you different from everybody else or unique. Just being yourself and shameless about it and honest about who you are and what your aim is, what's your dream outcome and what are you fighting for. Sharing that with the world makes you different and unique, even if you're chasing after something that's very, very similar, if not identical, to what other people are going for, because we all have our own unique perspectives and experiences that are baked into it. We also have personality types, and the way that I speak and the way that I communicate is going to jive with some, and it's going to deter a bunch of people as well, potentially, So that's just kind of how it goes. So what niche or industry are you in? What makes you different or unique? And then what are the common misconceptions or frequently asked questions in this arena? You want to consider that, because that's where you know that you can be helpful. And then of all the bullet points that you jot down from those above 3 things that I just mentioned, lump them, start to kind of put them all down on paper, just like quick chicken scratch all over the paper. Now try to categorize them into like 2 to 3 different buckets, if you will. And then pick 1 to 3 of those buckets or pillar topics. The more refined, the better in the beginning. You don't want to be too broad in what you talk about. And that was, once again, learn from my mistakes, because I felt like if I was too specific, I was missing out on business or opportunities. But you just come across vanilla and bland, and I don't need to go on a big pitch about why. Like, just that, it's just true. It's true. My business coaches had to work with me on that. The more specific and more refined you can be, that's best. You can widen your approach and the width and the breadth of what you talk about over time as you start to build that audience and kind of understand what you're doing and just learning in the content creation space. So everything you write for the first year at least should land into one of those pillar topics. And like I said, picked 1 to 3 to keep it pretty specified. And you'll know without a doubt that there is attention and interest there, because you've considered the industry, you've considered what makes you unique and what you like to write about, and you've also cross-threaded that through the consideration of what do people struggle with, what do people ask a lot of questions about. And you can go to Twitter and all the other social media platforms for this and go look at the big creators in whatever niche or industry you're in and look at what they're making content on and read the comments. That's a little pro tip there too. I know it seems pretty bloody obvious, but a lot of people don't do that, and they're like, oh, I don't know what to make content about. And that was me. So leverage what's already out there. And the confidence in your topic choices will help you focus more on the quality of your content and writing style, as opposed to questioning whether you're touching on the right thing or not. Kind of back to how I opened up this whole entire episode. When you're getting caught in the minutia and not paying enough attention to sharpen your skills at the fundamental base level, the thing that matters the most. And remember that in most applications, your long-form pillar content is going to be evergreen, as I've mentioned, meaning that the usefulness of the content has a long shelf life, which makes it highly leverageable. A ton of flip-flopping all over the place in my core topics have become these 3 things. This is what using myself as the example, as I always say. Here's kind of what I've nailed it down to at this point, and I'm going to continue to refine. But here's the core topics for me. Number 1, personal and professional mindset for solopreneurs. So this could apply to people outside of solopreneurship and people that don't identify with that or have no interest in that, because personal and professional mindset and just that growth-oriented mindset, developing yourself as just a person and as a professional, pretty self-explanatory, that can cross over into a wider pool of interest for people that aren't solopreneurs. But for the sake of actually getting somebody to feel like they're heard and understood by the way that I write something, I want to specifically put it out there in a way that makes the most sense to and relates the most to solopreneurs, one-person business operators and owners. So mindset, personal and professional. The second core topic, pillar topic, is marketing strategy and fundamentals. I don't really like too much the idea, at least for me, and this is not knocking anybody else, but for me, I like to always strip things back to the basics, to the fundamentals. And so we're talking about, like what today, we're talking about the fundamentals of pillar content and how you can pick the right approach for you that is sustainable. There's a lot of other marketing channels out there. There's a lot of brands that they put out tons of marketing content and they get super specific into optimizing for SEO or the understanding the algorithm and how to break the algorithm so that you can go viral. And that's where you can start getting into the minutia of like, okay, well, make sure that your post has that you remix this post or that you add this trending audio or whatever it is. And for me, I really want to see you become sustainable and like really skilled at the core fundamentals, because even though it might not seem as sexy on the surface or as appealing or as trending as far as what's popping up online in that space, it's really the backbone of success. And it has been for me thus far, and I'm hardly getting started. And for the greats that have come before you and I, focus on the fundamentals, focus on the core basics. And honestly, it makes for a more fun approach because it's more simplified and you get better returns on it. So marketing strategy and fundamentals is my second core topic. And then the third one is one-person digital business tips for growth and autonomy. Just kind of going back to the conversation of leverage. And through leverage, you're able to create autonomy. For me, my big goal is to work when I want, how I want, where I want, and just fully be in control. It's a dream outcome for me where I'm able to earn money and build audience without being like online 24/7. And yeah, like I'm in a sprint phase right now. I'm in that kind of like putting your nose to the grindstone and trying to spool up some sort of momentum. And I'm enjoying the process. But, I have two young kids, a 3-year-old and a 5-year-old, two little boys, and my wife and I, and, so we've got a cool little 4-person family here with the golden doodle doggy. And I just want to be able to spend time with them and know that even if I'm not clocked in, my family's taken care of. We're earning the money that we need to, making the money we need to, we're building wealth. And these are principles that I'm able to then share and teach my boys so that I can raise them to the best of my ability. So that's like my big why. And so growth, or more so autonomy and freedom, that's kind of the thing, like time freedom. If I had to oversimplify it, for me, my whole aim, the reason I'm doing what I'm doing from a high level perspective is because I'm trying to create autonomy and time freedom and be autonomous with financial freedom as well. So that's kind of my whole aim. But those are my topics: mindset, marketing, strategy, and fundamentals, and then just digital business tips for like one-person businesses, personal brands, things like that. And I'm going to continue to refine that as I go, as I keep carving my path. And the earlier you do this, back to you, we're putting the spotlight back on you. The earlier you do this, the better your content's going to be. And people are going to understand who you are, what you're about, and how you can help them. And that's why they're going to start caring about your content and starting to follow along and become, hopefully, not only customers, but loyalists of your brand as well. Okay, the fourth step in this 5-step process we're going through is make 5 entries before going live. This is the secret. Because this step is going to tell you a lot about yourself. And this craving to begin, that you have at the beginning. We're all excited to build content system for our business. It's going to tell you a lot about whether you're just chasing shiny objects and it just seems fun and sexy to you, as opposed to like, would you really enjoy it and can you keep up with it? So make 5 entries before you go live to the world with whatever this is, whether it's a blog, newsletter, podcast, YouTube series, or just a channel in general where you go into deep topics and something that's a little bit more long form. And for me, I was reluctant at first, but this advice is not something that I came up with on my own. This was actually given to me by my business coach, Joel, before launching the M&M's Monday newsletter, which is what I keep referring to. And I repurpose it. I have a note here. I'm looking at my teleprompter. I have a note here just talking about how I've just repurposed it, but I think I've already kind of made my point with that. I'm using it in a lot of different ways, which just makes it that much more leverageable. So you really learn fast whether creating whether the creating the content is enjoyable for you or not. When you have to make 5 entries without getting any sort of like dopamine hit or some sort of chemical release from like hitting publish and getting people's feedback and seeing that people are watching it or, whatever. Like when you strip away all of those like little reward mechanisms that us as humans just are kind of like craving all the time, you're going to find whether you like making that content for the sake, like for just the process of making it, or if you just hate it and it feels like it's just going to be a drag. Because if you're absolutely hating the process of coming up with the ideas, writing it, and then producing something out of it, no matter which platform you choose, format you choose, this is the time to reevaluate whether it's worth proceeding. Now, I will say that in some sense, you're going to have to embrace the suck. I like that little phrase. I think a lot of people have coined it, and I hear it in a lot of different places. But yeah, you have to embrace the suck. Like, this isn't going to be sunshine and rainbows all the way through. Like, there are plenty of times where I'm like, oh crap, I have to write today. Now, but that's just more of like my mood, or maybe there's just something else that's heavier on my brain. But the fact is, after I get done writing, which I try to write a little bit each day or most days of the week, I feel better. Just kind of like exercise. Like, you have to create the discipline. And so it's a balance, and I can't really speak to kind of like how you're going to know how much suck to embrace, because if you just hate the thing and you can't keep up with it, then you're going to need to reevaluate this. But it's worth doing this. Make the 5 entries, because that's what's going to help you determine whether you can keep up with this or not, and whether you enjoy it or not. And granted, also understand too, just like with anything, the more you do it, the better and quicker you're going to get at it. So the first 5 entries may be the hardest ones that you ever make, but do it. And for some context, just so you kind of have something to wrap your head around, or I'm just give you some of the dirty details, the secrets behind me over here, the Evan Shank dude, with my newsletter. It takes me about 4 to 6 hours a week to write the newsletter. And I have a Notion content creation toolbox, which is a Notion template that is going to be available very, very soon. And depending on when you're hearing this, it may already be available. So go to evanshank.com and you'll be able to find the content creation template available for purchase over there. But it's just a system that will really help you go from idea through execution and all the process in between, so that we're stripping away friction wherever we can. And so this template's what I use to help me write the newsletter, and without it, it would probably take me twice the amount of time on all of these different points. But to write the newsletter, to go from idea to fully written newsletter, takes about 4 to 6 hours depending on the topic. And then 1 to 3 hours goes to recording this video podcast version and then importing the files into my Google Drive. Sometimes I'll toss it into, and actually lately once I take the SD card out of my camera and I have my Rodecaster hooked up via USB-C to my computer, and so I can transfer the file straight off of that. I can throw those 2 files into Descript, is the editing platform that I use because it's simple, and my assistant has access to it as well. And that's where I can kind of just like fade in the intro, fade out at the end of the video, and just make sure that everything's like lined up and looking good. But anyway, 1 to 3 hours to kind of go through the recording, and then the very mild editing, which I've reduced my workflow in that editing arena quite a bit. If you're curious to hear more about that, I'd be happy to go into the technical side of what my previous workflow was for recording and editing and uploading these video and audio pieces versus what I do now. Much more simplified, and I've retained pretty much all of the quality that I had before for the most part, but it's saving me a ton more time. But still, it takes 1 to 3 hours to do all that. And then the third thing in this kind of the process is 1 to 2 hours to build it into my blog, kind of take the script or what I wrote in Notion and putting it into the blog, and then the email marketing software that I use. And I'm not going to try to convince you of anything that's anything less than the truth. My assistant helps me with about 90% of that spot of that thing. So the 1 to 2 hours, typically I can just toss it to my assistant and she can handle it for me. And another way to leverage, we're talking content leverage today, but leveraging other people's skill sets and other people's time availability might be great for you and your one-person business as well. So when you total all that up, that's between 6 to 11 hours per week, every week, to produce this weekly newsletter. But I'll mention it again. What I get from that 6 to 11 hours or so each week, which is that's quite a commitment, and I've been doing it for a year already. What I get from that is a newsletter, a blog entry, a podcast that goes out to Apple, Spotify, Google Podcasts, etc., a long-form video on YouTube, and then between 30 to 50 pieces of repurposed micro content for social media like Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube. And that whole micro content repurposement is built into that whole strategy and how you can kind of squeeze the most juice out of your pillar content. This is a huge thing that I preach about, is how can we make the most out of what we have. And so my pillar piece of content, not only does it make it into all those other formats, which are still long form, but then, like I said, 30 to 50 pieces every single week that has the potential to be created using the content creation toolbox, which is that Notion template that I mentioned a couple minutes ago. So evanshank.com, check out the content creation toolbox. It's a Notion template that you can purchase, and it helps you manage everything on the pillar content side and on the micro content side. So the content repurposing game and squeezing the most juice out of it, it's a no-brainer. It's a no-brainer. So check it out. I've been getting great feedback as I'm getting close to the launch. I've been sending it out, just some straight DMs, some one-to-one emails with some people that I know and trust and that will tell me whether it sucks or not. I'm getting a lot of good feedback from it. And this is the toolbox. This is the system that I built myself for my assistant and I to be able to, keep up with what we had going on. So it was proprietary to my flow. I've made it a little bit easier so that anybody can duplicate that template and use it themselves. All right, so let's jump out of that shameless plug, that little promo, but I do want you to know about it because it is relevant to what we're talking about here. I get so much for it. So make sure, getting back to the point here before we get to the final point, is making 5 entries before going live not only helps you understand what it's going to take to commit to it, but it's also going to give you a head start when you do go live. That's a key here that I haven't mentioned yet. In my case, with a weekly cadence, as soon as I wrote those 5 entries that my business coach basically required me to do, it was my homework. When we launched M&M newsletters on, I think, August 1st of 2022 is when the first M&M entry was released. I was already over a month ahead when I launched on that first day. And so what this did was it gave me time to write new entries, optimize my content creation workflow, kind of like that Notion template I was talking about, or just take a breather and take a week off from writing, not having to feel the pressure because I had built myself a little bit of runway, right? So that's some other benefits to writing 5 pieces before you ever launch. And that is the secret step that most people don't do. So don't skip it. All right. 5th and final point for today, we are wrapping up this episode now, is step 5, launch, commit, and grow. So get ready for liftoff because it's time to go live. With a format that you can keep up with and enjoy, 1 to 3 topics to stay focused on, and 5 entries in the chamber all ready to go, you are ready to tell the world about your pillar content, whether it's the podcast, whether it's on the YouTube channel, the newsletter, the blog, like I said. Keep in mind, though, that once you launch, the real work actually starts to begin. Everything else we've been doing up to this point is more research and kind of the viability analysis of which way do we want to go and why. Is this a viable approach for my audience? Is it a viable approach for me? Can I keep up with it? Can I enjoy it? Or will I enjoy it? So on and so forth. And now not only do you have to keep up with the commitment that you've made because you've gone public, you've put yourself on the hook saying, hey, my name's Evan. I created this M&M Mondays newsletter. It's for one-person business owners looking to achieve autonomy in their business and in their life. Here we go. It's coming out every single week, every single Monday morning. Expect this in your inbox. Once you've said that to the world, you've made a commitment. But if you want it to be fruitful for your business and help you hit your overarching goals, you're also going to have to market it now. So this is where we're doing communication with a goal in mind. We're communicating to the world about our pillar content that we're putting out. In this instance, I would keep using my example, the M&M newsletter on every Monday morning. It'll show up in your inbox, or you can listen to it on Spotify or on YouTube or wherever it is that you stream music, podcasts, or videos. You gotta market it. You got to market it. You got to let people know about it. And the goal is that they'll not only listen to it once, but listen to it twice, third time, fourth time, over and over and over again, and subscribe to the email. So I'd like to humbly say, I'm not trying to be braggadocious, but I'm with this whole approach that I'm using of the write a newsletter / blog and then use it for making video podcast episodes has been the biggest bang for the buck. But it does take quite a bit of extra time, money, software, and equipment to replicate my current approach. And it's not unique or proprietary to me. I'm not taking credit because I'm just doing what's working for others in a way that I can handle for the time being. But as you market the pillar content that you're putting out there, you'll be able to build and nurture your audience, which is the critical juncture of growing your customer count and their loyalty to your brand. So this is worth the effort. And this keeps you out of the stress of like, all right, which trending audio should I use? Okay, should I make my YouTube short 30 seconds long or 60 seconds long? I heard that if it's shorter, then they'll loop it more, and so then you get more watch time, or it'll show as more views. But if I make it longer, then I can pack more into it and hopefully build more trust. Which way should I go? Okay, the algorithms just changed. All right, okay, this person did a topic on this side, and so that seems to be trending, so I'm going to try to replicate that in my own words. Like, all of that crap starts to go out the window, and you have a strategy. And if you want to talk on whatever topic, as long as it falls within your niche, you are able to do that. And it's going to be evergreen. It's going to last a long time. And that becomes kind of the tree trunk, if you will, to all of your micro content. If pillar content is the trunk of the tree, then your micro content is kind of the branches and the leaves. I guess you could visualize it that way. But now you have a simple 5-step formula to confidently begin marketing your brand with pillar content, which you should be doing. Use these 5 steps. Number 1, pick what's easiest. Number 2, pick a format that you consume yourself. Number 3, lock in your niche-related topics. This 1 to 3 topics, keep it specified. The more specific, the better. Number 4, make 5 entries before releasing. This is that secret that most people don't do, and they burn themselves and they start to feel like they're losing their mind or can't hold up their commitments because they're putting stuff out and announcing this big thing that they're jumping into, and then they can't commit to it. They can't keep up with it because they didn't even try it. So make 5 entries before you start promoting your pillar content or whatever the series is that you're going to be launching. And then step 5, launch, commit, and grow. It's time to keep up with your commitments, show the audience your value, your worth, and that you're there for them. And this is going to set you up to not only become a better writer or a better podcaster or, video presenter, whatever you want to label yourself as. Not only is it going to help you build skills in these areas, but you're going to build that audience. You're going to build your business, and you're going to be able to create the life that you've always dreamed of having through your one-person digital business with the help of pillar content. Good luck. And until next time, peace.